Who can take a sunrise?
Sprinkle it with dew.
Candyman, released in 2021 and is directed by Nia DaCosta, who has also directed such films like Little Woods, and will be directing the MCU film next year called The Marvels. That's right, Nia DaCosta. It is directed by Nia DaCosta. It is not directed by Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele wrote the thing and produced it, but he didn't direct it. Stop saying that he directed it. And this movie is starring Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Teyana Parris, Nathan Stewart-Jarrett, and Coleman Domingo. And the reason why we're talking about Candyman today is because it was a PayPal recommendation and donation from one of my longtime supporters and contributors on this channel named The Stars. You strike again with another great recommendation of a fantastic horror movie that was a vast improvement on the 1992 original version. And I'm just so happy I watched this one because this one has way more political stakes and it's more of a mirror to society with what's been going on the last several years with the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement and then people fighting back against that by saying Blue Lives Matter. This movie is just caught up right in the middle of all that. And it adds so much to the story, something that I felt was missing from the 1992 version, where it just felt like, hey, we're introducing this creepy figure who does spooky and scary things, and it's supposed to be scary. Well, here in this movie, it still has those spooky and scary things, I feel done much better, but it also adds in the horror of the real-life horrors that people of color have been experiencing in this country for many, many decades, and I really enjoyed this one. It's been almost 30 years since the events of the original Candyman movie in 1992, and the Cabrini Green projects have been permanently shut down. But struggling artist Anthony McCoy decides to use the projects for his inspiration for his next artistic series. Little does he know that the Candyman legend that tore the projects apart is now slowly infecting him in his everyday life and in his artistic work. So now the more that Anthony paints, the more people in his community start being slashed to death in the mirror because everyone seems to want to do the Candyman challenge. And it's interesting, everyone in this movie seems to think like, oh, the Candyman, it's not real, it's just stupid. So when someone brings up like, hey, why don't you say Candyman 5 times in the mirror? They still go like, no, we're still not doing that. Even though I know it's complete bullshit. No, don't do that, you dumb shit. Don't frickin' do it. But of course, Anthony, the artist that he is, decides to do it, and his life, just chaos ensues after. Now, I just reviewed the original Candyman film from 1992, and I was not a big fan of it, mainly because I really don't know who this Candyman person is, who this entity is, and why they exist, and why they went about doing what they did to Helen the way they did. Because if they were just looking for a victim again, why didn't he just kill her and then kill the baby if he wanted to kill that baby? Because he kept saying, I just need a victim. Why do you need to wait? Just do the victim thing. And then with this movie, I was hoping that it would resolve a lot of my questions that I had about who the Candyman is. And while it did answer some of the questions, or at least I can see some type of motivation as to why the Candyman exists and goes around killing certain people, it still doesn't really explain what his motivation is. This movie almost makes him out to be a vigilante, like a badass crime fighter that takes out just anyone who's basically a dick. Like, he kills a couple of cops in this movie who are dirty cops who do terrible things and working outside the law and trying to shape it just to cover their own asses. That seems like a good reason to hook someone. But then he also goes around, like, killing teenagers who are just doing the whole Candyman trick challenge thing on a whim. And, I mean, I guess they're kind of rude, but I don't know. Maybe I wasn't giving enough reason as to them being so much of dicks that they warranted a terrible death that they got. But that's the route that this film is taking. It's making Candyman out to be a vigilante, and it's kind of cool, actually. The movie did boost up my anxiety, though. My God, whenever a bee came on screen. It's funny, this film was released last August, September, I believe, of 2021. And around that time, when I mowed the backyard of my house, I would get stung like crazy because I had bees that were burrowing into nests in the ground and I would run over them and I didn't know. And I got stung a lot. Like, I've never been stung that many times in a year, and I still have the scars from it. So seeing these bees on screen and people touching them and seeing the bees sting people, I'm like, oh my god, that fucking hurts. I know bees are important. I'm not saying that we should kill them all, but jeez, the ones in my backyard, though? Nope, they bit the dust. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think there were more yellow jackets than bees. So yellow jackets are dicks, so I was okay. I was in the right. The big thing I have to commend this movie on, though, is its use of flashbacks and how they go about telling flashbacks. They do it all through shadow puppets, and it's some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen on screen. For those of you that have been following me for quite some time, you know I'm a sucker for silhouette. You know I'm a sucker for shadows. I love shadows, and I love the use of shadows. When you use them properly, they could tell a beautiful, wonderful story. And here, that's just in literal fashion. Whenever they're talking about previous events, whether that was 10 years ago, or 50 years ago, or 100 years ago, it all went to this shadow puppet. And I'm not sure why we went into the shadow puppet realm. It's kind of an artistic art form, and we're dealing with a bunch of artists in this movie, so I guess that's kind of the connection I was pulling from it, but either way, I don't care. You could have pulled this out of thin air, it doesn't matter, because it's gorgeous. It is beautiful, and I want all my flashbacks and all of my movies to be told with shadow puppets now, because it's great. A lot of times it's creepier than the actual creepy stuff going on in the actual movie. When Anthony gets stung and things start slowly happening around him and Candyman starts showing up, like, the sting venom starts, like, disintegrating his arm, and it goes up all the way to his face, and I just kept watching and saying, like, why haven't you gone to the doctor yet? Eventually he does, but that's when, like, it goes up to his neck and to his face. I'm like, dude, once you get stung and you start seeing it spread like that, you need to go right away. Eczema, man, it is a serious condition. I really enjoyed this version of Candyman. It's a direct sequel to the original, so it doesn't, at least I feel it doesn't, pay tribute to the sequels that happened with the Candyman 2 and Candyman 3. I don't think there was any other ones. Apparently that's the thing to do nowadays with horror franchises. You just forget all of the terrible direct-to-DVD sequels that came out, and we just make direct sequels to the original horror film that all of us loved, right? That's what we do? Yeah, that's what we do. But I really enjoyed this version much more than the original. I love its use of social commentary and how the events that were happening and are still happening in this country today are infused into this story. I absolutely love it. I love the performances. I love the jump scares way more. And I get a little bit more motivation behind the Candyman and why the Candyman does what the Candyman does. So I'm going to give Candyman 4 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I like it a lot.
So guys, if you've seen Candyman, what did you think about it? Which one do you prefer more? Do you prefer the original 1992 version or this brand new 2021 version? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you all the next time I'm releasing the next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.